Joker, Folie, Deux. Welcome to a brand new video, guys. I am sorry that I'm late with this, but oh boy, I've got a lot to say. Today, we are breaking down the Joker 2 announcement and what that subtitle means for the plot of the movie in terms of how and what the plot could explore, and that branches off into quite a few theories, as you can imagine. But also, I'm going to take the opportunity in this video to discuss just why I think that Joker 2 is a relevant story to tell. So if you happen to be brand new here, I do recommend subscribing, because we've been on top of Joker 2 development since day one, since we've even had peeps of it, and I'll keep you updated along the way. This is the channel to be for that. I'm sure you're going to enjoy some other videos here, but let's get right into it. On Todd Phillips' Instagram, he basically confirmed Joker 2 by showing the front cover page of the screenplay, and it reads Joker, and instead of like Joker 2, I kind of like the title of this in terms of it could just be like Joker 2, Joker 3, but it reads Joker Folie à Deux. So the screenplay here is written. We even have Joaquin Phoenix reading it himself. Let's first talk about what Folie à Deux means. And again, you may have heard about this, but it really does come into play with where this plot can go. So Folie à Deux, folly of two, or madness shared by two, also known as shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder, is a psychiatric syndrome in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another. So, a madness shared by two. A mad love? Anyone? So, Folie à Deux, a madness shared by two. Obviously, this is springboarding and launching so many theories as to how Joker 2 could contain a story of perhaps two Jokers, some people are saying, of which I'm really not so sure about that one. Or the more likely option, in my opinion, and that's the one I'm very down for, especially with Todd Phillips' lens and vision for Harleen Quinzel coming into this story. Bear with me, because in this video we are going to get into why I think the subtitle leans towards more Joker and Harleen / Harley Quinn more than it does that of what people are saying it could be a story surrounding two Jokers. But hey, as I always say, if I'm wrong, when the movie releases, I'll hold my hands up and say, hey, you were right. Because before we get into how the subtitle could give us a huge clue about the plot, I wanted to talk about this announcement in general, because I know there's mixed opinions about Joker even having a sequel movie, let alone the necessity, as a lot of people always like to refer to it as, like the necessity of even the first Joker movie. Like, why? But why? Why? Right? You may have heard that comment before. Now, first of all, money, of course, right? Joker made $1 billion. You know, literally, Joaquin won an Oscar for his great performance. Of course, money is a factor, but Joker was always meant to be more than one movie. And just before I dive into that detail, I personally have always said that when covering the Joker 2 development on this channel in my previous videos, that I do honestly see the potential in it carrying over to another story. I've never said that it has to happen, like, oh yeah, this absolutely has to happen, but I completely see, underline here, the potential in exploring the trippy storyline of what we saw in Joker, just carrying on that kind of, what I mean by trippy is the unreliable narrator side, like, oh, what was real, and everything along that vein. There is creative potential there. And so as a result, I've always kind of disagreed with those just outright, bluntly, from the get-go, saying that there's no point or using the word unnecessary when it comes to another movie. However, I have always understood the comments in saying that it's a great standalone movie, or that it can work literally as a standalone. Like, it doesn't have to be continued on. It could just end there and then as a one piece. Now, back to the detail of what I was saying with how Joker, even money aside, was always pitched as three movies. That might not be a detail that you know. Now, this is the very quote that Todd Phillips said quite a while back now in saying, I pitched it as 3 movies, Joker being the first with me, and then these 2 other movies with 2 other directors. The important thing I think we need to draw out of this is that before Joker even made $1 billion, he had an arc or like an idea creatively for where this character could go, or a story that could be told over 3 movies before it even made $1 billion. Like, for all he knew after that first movie, as well as DC with giving him a limited budget at the time, which was fine for the movie, but you may not have heard already, but like they gave him that small budget because they didn't want to invest too much into it, thinking that it might not go anywhere. For all he knew, it could have done shit, but the plan or idea in his head when he first pitched it was Joker 1, 2, and 3. So with the idea that he pitched it as 3, that kind of inspires confidence with that there's always been this idea that he's been invested in seeing come to fruition. The obvious speculation to most people, and I kind of agree with this, was to somewhat continue the unreliable narrator story with the sequel, due to one of the huge talking points coming out of Joker is that people really didn't quite know what was real or what wasn't in the movie. More or less, every last scene is in question. And also another typical speculation when exploring the second and third movie, especially as we know Todd Phillips pitched it as like an idea of 3 movies. An idea has always been that the story can be capitalized on with one thing that remains consistent with so many Jokers out there. And that is how they like to remember their origin a different way, or perhaps they prefer it to be multiple choice. You know, such as that line from The Killing Joke when Joker says, something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Ha ha ha. So obviously that led people to think in the sequel perhaps Arthur tells a different story, remembering events differently. That's if this is still Arthur, by the way, in the second movie. And it allows for an opportunity to tell a slightly different Joker story and character study with that of a different, you know, because there's different types of Joker. I mean, just to put one very contrasting example, that of Jared Leto's to that of Jack Nicholson's. You know what I mean? But then, of course, rightfully so, some people with just that simple idea might be like, but wouldn't that just be a rehash of the first movie, albeit just giving us a little bit of a different type of Joker? And so, as a result, that kind of still feels redundant. I get what you mean there. It's like, yeah, of course, it would still explore a different type of Joker to that of Arthur, but is that really worth doing? But that, guys, is where they add a splash of something new, all while doing that as well, perhaps, and that is indeed where the subtitle of Folie à Deux comes in. So this is quite off the cuff. I haven't, you know, fleshed it out majorly because with how trippy Joker was in of itself, one of my favorite things, you know, the unreliable narrator side, what was real. Obviously, I can't even comprehend what Todd Phillips could do with potentially Harleen, with what Arthur could be doing in the second movie, what is real possibly, what isn't, what other creative new trippy ideas could be in there down the rabbit hole. But perhaps it could maybe continue on the story as of the end of Arkham Asylum, potentially, in where Arthur had, as we know, killed that woman that he was being interviewed by. And as we read out earlier, the subtitle for Joker 2, Folie à Deux, is a psychiatric syndrome in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another, a shared madness, if you will. And as a result of that shared madness, I really, really do think it would be a great opportunity to tell a trippy storyline, but introducing Harleen. Now, I know it's going to be interesting. 50% of people, I think, will be like, yes, I get the vision boba or something like that. But then other people will be like, no, just, no. And just touching on that for a brief second, I've already seen quite a few comments, like, completely being like, no Harleen, please no. But for me, with the more serious vibe of which Todd Phillips achieved with Joker and the lens that he put on it, I would really be down for seeing more of a sullen, kind of gritty take on a Harley as opposed to what we see from Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Now, by the way, don't get me wrong, I personally am quite a big fan of Margot Robbie's Harley. Not necessarily a huge fan of Birds of Prey or anything like that, but I do like her characterization and what she gets into with the demeanor of Harley. But again, what I'm specifically talking about here and really trying to highlight is tone. The tone of Joker, to put it extremely simply, is very different from that of the DCEU. So Harleen Quinzel and the way this story could be portrayed, as per the first movie Joker, would be just as somber and not like, again, if you're trying to translate Margot onto this Harley, or Harleen, in terms of, I think it would be Harleen before we even got to Harley in the second movie, wouldn't be the same. It would be like a whole new refreshing take. So please, like, when imagining this new Harleen or take, it don't carry whatever you've had from other iterations such as Margot Robbie's. So to flesh Joker 2 Folie à Deux out a little bit more, perhaps throughout the events of the movie, I guess towards the beginning at this point, Arthur gets a new psychologist, and this time it is Harleen. And perhaps it does continue the continuity of the man who was laughing at the end of Joker 1, in the very clean Arkham State Hospital that, as we know, was complete contrast from the dirty, kind of gritty version that we saw when it was portrayed from the point of view of Arthur Fleck. Like, that was one of the things as well that made a lot of things in question. And since obviously Joker, or, you know, Arthur didn't escape maybe at the end of the first movie, he killed that woman at the end of the first movie, at some point he's gonna get some more treatment. Except this time, perhaps in another interview with this new psychologist Harleen, he's telling a new story. And of course, perhaps the camera follows that story just like it did with Arthur in the events of, like, you know, Arthur's story in the first movie, the Dirty Arkham, when he was working as a clown. But every now and again, except in this second movie, it perhaps jumps back to the interview room outside the story we've just been following with Arthur in the second movie. And each time, maybe Harleen's demeanor changes. Maybe it's not noticeable at first, but at some point, much later on in the movie, it most definitely would be. And this is the cool thing of, you know, what I can imagine Todd Phillips doing, you know, just like with what we were doing with the first movie, trying to suss things out, or what does that scene mean? On the rewatch of Joker 2, Folie à Deux, maybe you'd notice things even more in the earlier scenes of how she was actually coming around to his side a bit earlier on. So what I'm trying to say is like a descent into madness throughout the interviews of Arthur in Arkham State Hospital, in that of like a mad love way. Again, that's why I think Folie à Deux does imply mad love between that of Joker and Harleen Quinzel more than what it does that of two Jokers. Now again, that may be extremely rough, like that needs, you know, ironing the creases out majorly. As I said, this is quite off the cuff. I'm just trying to come up with some basic ideas for what they could explore if Folie à Deux does actually imply a shared madness, and a shared madness to be that of mad love between Joker and Harley. And just kind of thinking slowly throughout the movie, perhaps he has already wormed his way into her mind. I know this sounds basic, but just imagine something like that, along with what Todd Phillips tried to do in the first movie. This kind of whole ambiguous story, again, maybe popping into Arthur's story in the second movie, but then we revisit a line with Harleen, you know, writing something down, asking him another question. It's like, really, Arthur? Was it that way? Or something like that. And you're still guessing what's true, but then before you know it, she's already kind of changed, or maybe finding him amusing, maybe being charmed by him in some way, shape, or form. And so it leaves the viewers thinking in a very psychological, trippy way, and I definitely think they should maintain that, just like how the first movie was psychologically trippy. And thus, along the way, and by the ultimate part of the film, we see this shared madness, this folie à deux, develop between both characters, possibly, dare I say it, I'm not saying I want this to happen, I'm just guessing here, possibly ultimately leading to an Arkham escape. Because if he's wrapped her around his finger by the end, maybe she might facilitate that. And then, thus, that can lead to a Joker 3. Again, please don't think that this is the way I think it's gonna go, and that this is the way I'm saying it's gonna go. That is just such rough ideas. But strip all of it apart, shred it, or like put it into a blender. You can see what I mean by the shared madness, the folie à deux with Harleen interviewing him. I do feel like it could be, especially with the lens and the mature tone that the first movie had. Again, respect to Margot Robbie, but like I would love to see a new actor step into the role with the somber tone and dark tone that it would have as a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist interviewing Arthur Fleck and visiting at how that almost Stockholm-y-like syndrome, even though it isn't, because she can leave and go home at the end of the day. But before she knows it, it's almost like it turned into a Stockholm syndrome. We get to see that unfold in a very carefully written way. I'm really down for that. And to those people saying, oh, we don't need two Harleys on the screen, or another Joker when we've got Barry Keoghan in the Batman, even though we don't know if he's going to be a big role. Well, then how can you be okay with, like, let's just say Ben Affleck was still Batman, right? And none of that stuff ever happened. How can you be okay with, like, Batman and, like, the main DCEU continuity and Robert Pattinson's Batman at the same time, or Michael Keaton's Batman? Like, people are okay with multiple Batman iterations, but, like, we can't have, like, an Elseworlds Joker storyline going on that's in its own little pocket thing. Like, Matt Reeves has got his own little pocket thing going on with its standalone outside that of the DCEU continuity. I literally have no issues with Margot continuing on with whatever she wants to do in the DCEU and seeing a separate standalone story of almost this mad love adaptation with Joker 2 Folie et Deux. But to close this off, because if I didn't mention this, people would ask me about it. And that is that some people are saying about the two Jokers thing, and even refer to Willem Dafoe's comments in regards to being involved, if ever, in some kind of Joker story. And this is what Willem Dafoe had to say about that, just in case you haven't heard it, or maybe to refresh your mind, in that he said, there is something interesting about, like, if there was a Joker imposter. So it would be possible to have not only dueling Jokers, but someone that says to be the Joker that isn't the Joker. And that kind of opens up the possibility of an interesting story, particularly if you had Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and then you had someone who was either imitating or riffing off of what he did. I fantasized about that. But other than that, I am not talking to anybody about it. You're the first one. Now, personally for me, like, I just want to put this out there, that I understand the entertainment side of that, and not only that, despite having also myself of wanting to see Willem Dafoe as a Joker on live action, this might surprise some of you. Again, I would love to see him. I really would. Let's just say Joker wasn't Joaquin and it was Willem. I'd be down for that. But doing two Jokers, I'm not really down for the whole ideology of the Joker thing again. I would much rather Folie à Deux to be about the shared madness being that of Joker and Harleen, because they literally do share that madness. He infected her with his madness. Now, yes, Folie à Deux does also and can also pertain, which is why this is all theories at the end of the day, to that of two Jokers. Which is why it really reminds me of what they did in Gotham. Now, Gotham didn't really have the licensing to do Joker properly, which is why they adopted and really embraced the whole ideology of the Joker. I'm going to read out what Danny Cannon said about that, because it's really relevant to this and why I don't really kind of want it. Especially when potentially being faced with an offer to adapt a shared madness, aka a mad love storyline. I think that dark, as I keep raving about, wooing of Harleen by this criminal crazy-ass Joker in an intelligent, trippy way is much more appealing than this. So Danny Cannon, when discussing that with regards to Gotham's Joker, said, I think the Joker isn't so much a single person as he is an ideology. He's an idea that we can all live without fear, and we can all be free, and we can all not live within the world's restrictions, and not live within the rules at all. This guy walks between the lines, and I think that's an ideology. It's not a single person, it's a way to live your life. And I think that's what we explore. Now, it's a weird situation. I both agree and disagree with that, because clearly, at the end of Joker 1, this is why some people could say that Folie à Deux is about two Jokers, because he inspired a lot of people. There was a lot of anarchy, riots in Gotham that led to the Waynes dying in Joker 1, lots of clown faces, and he was just their, like, I don't know, like, arbiter of Joker, because they were everywhere. It's just he was their icon after what he did on the Murray Franklin talk show. So yes, there is an argument for it, but to me, I do like the Joker just being one person, and fair enough if that is your preference to have this ideology and how, hey, let's get two kind of A-list celebrities, if you know what I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, and let's just say, for example's sake, Willem Dafoe in the same movie. That alone, even the people who are like, "Ugh, Joker 2, what's the point?" would go and buy tickets to see that. I get that, especially as I keep saying, there were multiple, if you want to say, you know, Jokers born in a way with the ideology that Arthur Fleck kind of spread throughout Gotham at the end. I mean, look at this shot on screen. You know what I'm saying. Like, that clearly could pertain to a shared madness and a Folie à Deux. But again, my preference, and again, this is subjective, Folie à Deux being shared madness and the opportunity to explore a Harleen Quinzel that isn't the DCEU Birds of Prey one. I would really like a character study of, like, a Joker 2, but a tied character study of Harleen and Mad Love, Shared Madness, Folie à Deux. That's just so much more appealing to me than, oh, you know, the ideology of the Joker. Joker could technically be not just one person. I don't know, man. Like, in my mind, Joker is just one guy, one character who had one bad day. And I get the appeal of it, and I'm not saying I wouldn't be entertained by it if Todd Phillips goes that way. I kind of always have the preference of there is one guy, you know, facing up against Batman who gets put away again and always, you know, torments him and stuff. And for him to just, let's just say he dies, and, oh, you know, there's always a Joker in Gotham because it's an ideology, and making someone else just come along, and Batman always is just fighting against this avatar of chaos because Joker is an ideology that can be adopted by anyone. It's just, it kind of lessens the character of the Joker to me. Do you know what I mean? It's both appealing. It's such an agree to disagree thing for me because I'm a bit conflicted about it. Ultimately, bottom line, I think Joker Folie à Deux does hint more, and especially as it translates to shared madness. As a result, when you think Joker, shared madness, you think of the shared madness he has with Harley. I think it does hint more towards that. That's the more, like, you know, magnetizing pull. But I can't refute nor disregard that it could just as easily be about what we were discussing, an imposter Joker, as Willem Dafoe says, especially with the ending of Joker 1. But please, 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 personally for me, I know some people say that the two Joker thing is way more interesting than Harleen, but for me, nope, I'm down for a character study of shared madness, baby, mad love, but in a twisted Todd Phillips camera lens filter put over that in the Elseworlds universe that Joker brought to our screens. Again, don't think Margot Robbie type of Harley. It would be... Again, we've never seen this. We've never really seen the interviews be done. Imagine how that could be told. I see so much more potential there than just like, oh, now there's two Jokers. Yeah. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you prefer the other thing. Let me know down in the comments below. I know this has been a bit more of a rambly video, but I have so much passion for this character. And this will be some speculation going on for quite some time, since Folie à Deux can mean multiple things until we get that clarification. But ladies and gentlemen, like this video if you did enjoy. Do subscribe for more Joker 2 updates. We're going to be on it, and faster than what I got to with this video. Don't worry about that. Check out some of my other videos, of course. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and let's just smile and put on a happy face.